case is going to visit a topic that is quite controversial and brings up different emotions in people in terms of ethics and morals. Recently, three Thai women resurfaced after being lured to Georgia under the hopes of obtaining a high salary in exchange for being a surrogate. The issue of surrogacy has been controversial for years, but not largely considered illegal, even though largely considered unethical. But nowhere is this the case more than Georgia. Georgia's very lax laws regarding surrogacy and low wages have made it a sort of hotspot for questionable individuals setting up surrogacy companies, where they hire surrogates from not just Georgia, but other surrounding countries who too are in desperate financial situations. This is because Georgia considers surrogacy companies as just a business contract, and it isn't illegal because they don't have any specific laws regarding surrogacy. But the case of today makes surrogate mothers or womb for hire seem like a way less extreme concept. And that is because we're talking about a human egg factory, not unlike the concept of the Handmaid's Tale, where women are basically imprisoned and forced to reproduce. I'm sure many of us here know of or have read that dystopian novel. I know I had to study it in high school. Now, let's begin by introducing the country of Georgia. Georgia is situated between Russia to the north and Turkey, Armenia, and Azerbaijan to the south, with both the Black and Caspian Sea to its west and east. Georgia is part of the European Free Trade Agreement, but not the EU by any means, although they'd like to be. The average Georgian salary is around 10,000 euros per year or €5 an hour. So, alternative ways of making money by Georgians is gladly welcomed, which is why a lucrative industry has been looming in Georgia, sort of behind the shadows, but fully in line with the law, and that is the business of surrogacy for foreign parents, whereby impoverished Georgian women would rent out their wombs essentially to foreign buyers wanting to become parents. We will see soon that, luckily, as of January 2024, the Georgian government has been looking at banning foreign surrogacy as questions around the ethics of this business continue to boil, especially in recent years, as they've seen women from countless countries, including countries where maybe surrogacy is illegal, come to Georgia to partake in this. However, so far there doesn't seem to be many actionable steps taken yet. In fact, the operation behind today's case was only brought to light due to the escape of three Thai women held captive there. So, let's get into the case. In August 2024, 10 Thai women made their way to Georgia, lured by a Facebook post in the form of a job offer, offering around 500,000 baht per month as a salary to be a surrogate in Georgia for foreign parents. While being a surrogate isn't illegal in Georgia, it is in fact completely unregulated. Nor is it rare for upper middle class and wealthy families to partake in surrogacy across the globe. There are definitely questions surrounding the ethics of it and the serious emotional and physical toll it places on the surrogates, which a lot of them don't realize until they're already, 6 months plus into the pregnancy. So today's case therefore begins with a Facebook job post that unfortunately many women from improvised countries fell for, lured by the promise of abnormally high salaries and visa and travel fees paid for them. I know many of us might be quick to judge, thinking if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. But we have to remember when you're in a desperate financial position and often haven't been exposed to education about online scams, you will jump at anything to try and improve your life. This Facebook job wasn't even exclusive to Thailand. The job was posted to many countries with lower incomes, promising Georgia as a safe, legal country to work as a surrogate. The icing on the cake was that this surrogacy agency would pay for the flights and visa fees for these women. But of course, the trap was this effectively indebted them to the agency. Once the women arrived, it was reported that the agency took their passport, signed them in, and shows them their new living quarters, which has been described as a somewhat of a human trafficking warehouse with four large houses housing 100 plus Thai women who were already there when the women from today's case arrived. They said they were forced to live together in whatever space was available to them and weren't allowed to leave until they'd paid back their debt of around 1,200 Great British pounds. This is the moment that the women immediately knew they were played. It clicked for these women upon talking to other women who had already been there for months and more. They started to hear about what they were about to be subjected to, and it was nothing less than a human egg factory, with staunch similarity to The Handmaid's Tale. Reports from some Thai women say in this human egg factory, they were treated like cattle. Women were said to be forced to stay inside the living quarters 24/7, where they would be injected with human growth hormones to stimulate their ovaries and therefore egg ovulation. Once a month, the women were then anesthetized and their eggs collected, rather than being a surrogate in its normal sense at all, meaning a couple comes looking for a woman to carry their baby to full term and then hand it over to them to raise. The woman is impregnated but then continues to live a largely normal day to day life as a pregnant woman, with often mandatory check ins at the doctor, etc. Women are often paid in installments, and of course, once the 9 months are up and the woman gives birth, she then hands the child to the paying parents. The Thai women were saying this was the surrogacy arrangement they thought they were going into. But in this case, the gang holding the Thai women are harvesting their eggs. And men and women were saying that often no one is getting paid, which then traps them further in debt. These eggs that the gang would remove were from the women each month were said to have then been trafficked on and sold to other countries to be used for IVF treatments. In fact, Diana Thomas, CEO and founder of the World Egg and Sperm Bank, has noted that this is more common than you think. Eggs for IVF treatment in Western countries are marketed as ethically sourced. And these types of gangs, like the one in today's case, are even educated in how to market their profile as appearing like educated middle class women donating these eggs to make Western medium to high class couples feel like they are buying ethically and not from abused, uneducated women from the third world, which is way more common than you think. It is unaware how long this has been going on for, but this all came to a light in January of 2025, and the women who shone a light on this case went to Georgia in August of 2024. So this case came to light when one of these Thai women earned enough money to afford her freedom, around 1,200 Great British pounds, and as soon as she returned to Thailand, she sounded the alarm about the hundreds of other women, including Thai, being there. An NGO called the Pavena Foundation decided to spring into action and initiate a rescue mission. for the Thai women held there. So far, this NGO has only liberated two other women, and as of recording this video now, the number is estimated at four, with hundreds still being held there. And this NGO also reported that in 2024 alone, it's believed that around 257 Thai women fell for scam of a similar nature as today's case. The gang is actually believed to be a Chinese run gang operating in Georgia. Thus, Interpol in Thailand has since been trying to get the Chinese government to cooperate in trying to liberate the remaining Thai women. Following the three Thai women from today's case, blowing the whistle on what's going on here, a radio station in Europe called Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, went to visit the house in Georgia where the women were held. One of the residents there, Nara, said that no one was holding her and the other women against their will. She said, and I quote, "We have our documents with us, our passports. If we want to leave, we can do so at any time." And then she continued on to say, "I don't know why these girls said they were victims of trafficking." After that, she went on to say she signed a contract with this same Chinese company to be a surrogate mother. And they were just saying, we don't know. Basically, they were just saying the Thai women were lying. So this started to make the investigation more complicated. And we don't know if this was the same scheme. We don't know if this was another woman planted there by the company itself. Like, we really don't know. The Georgian authorities also clapped back, saying that they started an investigation and reported that up to 70 foreign citizens were interviewed, except no one except these three Thai women had any complaints. Apparently, the three Thai women explained that they no longer wanted to be surrogate mothers or stay at the residential address, and law enforcement transferred all three of them to a shelter for trafficking victims on the same day. And then, after they went through legal procedures, they left the country. So now we're having a bit of back and forth between the women, the authorities, other women there. Yeah, as you can tell, they're in a bit of a bind, which isn't really making investigations go very far. At this point, Georgia and Thailand are both investigating the allegations of the women, but it's proving difficult to get anywhere for reasons I just explained, with inconsistencies in stories, but also considering surrogacy is not yet illegal in Georgia. And many people in Georgia are not reporting a similar story. And not only is surrogacy not illegal, it is also completely unregulated. So there's not that much the police can really do at this point. It will be interesting to follow this case and follow the bill that passed in Georgia, hoping to make surrogacy illegal. So it will be interesting to see how the investigations of this case progress, and also how the bill banning surrogacy will affect vulnerable women driven to rent out their womb out of desperation. Given the comments from the director of World Sperm Bank, this clearly alleges that cases like this are not unheard of and alarmingly more common than we'd like to think. So I'll leave it up to you really to come to your own conclusion. What do you think is going on here? Do you think it's exactly how the Thai women said and the company is trying to cover it up and the Georgian authorities are trying to sort of put a veil over it? Or do you think the Thai women are telling a different story? I'd love to hear what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. I think this case is really interesting because it brings up the topic of banning surrogacy in general. And topics like this are very, very important to digest because when you ban something like surrogacy, the idea is because you're protecting vulnerable women. But like we saw in some of the snippets of this video, there are quite a few women that were interviewed in this surrogacy trade in Georgia who were saying they'd just given birth and they've already signed up to give birth to a second baby as a surrogate mother. And obviously, this is because the money that they're getting for just one birth is more than a yearly salary in Georgia. And for women that already have their own kids, so they've got all this extra cost and not not a full-time job, at least not a high-paying one, or maybe they're on benefits. This surrogacy option is highly profitable for them. And as we saw in some of the news clips I also posted on the screen, a lot of women are saying this idea of banning surrogacy in Georgia is going to really hurt them. So this kind of ethical, moral question, banning things like surrogacy, always brings up people on both sides of the argument. While it is important that banning things like surrogacy protects vulnerable women, it also takes away a hugely lucrative income stream for many women as well. And while you can think, yes, but it's in your best interest, the women that are part of this are also thinking, yes, but my best interest is to be able to comfortably feed my children. So it's a really interesting, like, two-sided issue. And while I think I would probably go for more leaning on the side of it is better to ban surrogacy to protect vulnerable women, I also really do see their struggle of, yes, but this was how I earned like 2 years' salary in one. What else am I supposed to do now? And I do truly sympathize with that. So I think this case was really, really good to bring up because it also brings up the broader question of banning surrogacy. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in my next video.